My name is Dell. Welcome to Dell on Movies. And this is the continuation of my series where I'm ranking the best movies year by year, starting from 2000. And I'm going to stop at 2025. And I am up to the year 2006. At the end of this journey, I'm going to rank the best of the best, put them all together in a pot, and basically come up with my list of the top 25 movies over that time span. So let's go ahead and get right into 2006. My number 10 is Inside Man, and that is by director Spike Lee. And I mentioned his name because he is one of my favorite directors of all time. Here is Inside Man. And all of his movies are not going to show up on top 10 of a given year, but this one did. And this one is Denzel Washington, as you can see up top. You got Clive Owen, who is down here in the corner. And Denzel is a negotiator who's been sent in to negotiate with Clive Owen, who is a bank robber. Him and his crew have barricaded themselves inside this bank with a bunch of hostages. And the movie goes from there. So it bobs, it weaves, and it just does all sorts of things. I will say that it does run a little bit long, but the cast makes it worth it. Aside from the two people I just mentioned, we also have Christopher Plummer. We got Willem Dafoe. We got Jodie Foster. It's just an amazing cast in this film. So that makes my number 10 for 2006. My number 9 is 300. This movie I contemplating taking out of the top 10 because it does something that I don't generally like, but it does it so well that I have to have it here. And that thing is all style, no substance. It is pure style. It takes a real life story about the Spartans who fought against the Persians, and with only 300 of them against however many soldiers were on the other side, or at least that's the story we've been led to believe. And it takes that and just barely holds on to anything or exaggerates it as much as possible. And uh, it's, it's what it is. It's more based on the graphic novel than it is the actual event. Um, and it is just, it's visually appealing. The action is crazy. This is Zack Snyder slow-mo at his best. And I'm not a huge Zack Snyder fan, mainly because I don't his storytelling doesn't always sit well with me, and he overuses slow-mo. And he uses it a bunch here, but it works. It just works really well. And on top of all that, he got what I think is the very best performance out of Gerard Butler that we've ever seen as King Leonidas. He was good in some other things, but basically this is the one that he is at his best, and that gets to my number 9. Takes me to my number 8. Number 8 is a movie that it is one of those movies that people always tell you is underrated, and then the people who tell you that probably overrated. They tell you it's the greatest thing ever. It's a weird thing that happens with this movie. Uh, it is a Michael Man movie, and I'm one of those people who's probably guilty of the overrating. That is Miami Vice. We get Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell as our heroes here. I was excited, like a lot of people, to hear about this movie when it came out because it's based on an iconic 80s series. And when we got it, a lot of people were disappointed because these guys were not doing Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas, who were the stars of the original Miami Vice, right? And Michael Mann, who was involved in Miami Vice, wasn't really interested in them doing imitations of that. These are definitely their own guys, and the movie is it's a brooding affair. Like there's in the OG series, there was a lot of dark moments in the movie, the movie in the series, but there's also a lot of levity. We don't get a lot of that here. We get just straight dark, brooding, guys, cops who are just, you know what, if the drug dealers die, they die. They go full Drago with it, and that's kind of what we get. And but I think it's a magnificent film. That gets my number 8 spot. Moving on to number 7, which is a movie I actually don't have, and that is Letters from Iwo Jima. That movie is a Clint Eastwood film, and I'm gonna be honest. Over the last pretty much since Letters from Iwo Jima, I've kind of soured on Clint Eastwood as a filmmaker. One is I've definitely soured on him as a person. Um, I'm not gonna go into all that, but as a filmmaker, I think more of what I don't like about him as a person is bleeding through his work, especially the last 4 or 5 films, I would say. This film, at least from memory, because I haven't watched it in a while, is a little bit different. It's a companion film with Flags of Our Fathers. He also directed that. Came out either the same year or earlier, or very late the previous year. Um, and basically two sides of a World War II battle. These were guys were this side was Japanese soldiers in Iwo Jima and the things that they were going through during certain battles. And it is an excellent, excellent watch. That takes me to number five. Number five is a film I do have, but it's in a box somewhere. I don't feel like digging it out. And that is The Pursuit of Happiness. Will Smith, Jaden Smith, the best thing they've ever done together. Um, Arguably Will Smith's best performance, though I don't think it is actually his best performance, but some people do, and I'm not going to argue that if they do. Um, Again, based loosely on a true story of a guy who wound up homeless after his wife left him, and he's trying to provide for his son, and he gets into this internship program, and bada boom, bada bing. So again, I think this is Will's one of his best performances. I don't think it's his best, but it's definitely up there. And Jaden Smith, the same. For him, it probably most certainly is his best performance, and it's crushing in some scenes, heartwarming in other scenes, just emotional most of the way through. So uh, it's one that I throw on sometimes for Father's Day, to be honest with you. My family kind of looks at me sideways because it's not like a happy film all the way through. Um, it gets there, just always. All right. So this is my number six. Number five is a movie that is a little more happy all the way through. Uh, Even though some tough things happen, but it's not as heart wrenching. I will say though, it does have some moments like that, and that is Aquila and the Bee. And I fell in love with this movie the first time I saw it. I went to the theater to see it, and this was Kiki Palmer. It was the first thing that I remember seeing her in, and so she's like really really young there, and you can see that she has star quality to her. Angela Bassett on the other side plays her mom. Lawrence Fishburne plays her mentor, and he's doing Lawrence Fishburne things. He's put on the accent. He's got the cape all the time, and it's a thing that he was doing at that time because he also kind of did that in Higher Learning. So very different movie. A few years earlier, actually late '90s for that one. But anyway, this is uh, I say it's a family movie, but with caution, and that's because there are some choice words in here, some four-letter words happening back and forth in this movie. But we get a young lady who's having a hard time at school, and she realizes or finds out that she is really good at spelling, and so she is trying to win the spelling bee. She's trying to advance as far as she can and win that spelling bee, and also be a young girl, and also lives in a really tough neighborhood with a single mom. So all of those things are happening, and killing the bee makes it all work. Number four movie is Pan's Labyrinth. Um, this it's it's a movie that until recently I would say this is uh Guillermo del Toro's masterpiece, his magnum opus. It might still be. It might still be, but there is competition. Okay. And yeah, I'm talking about Frankenstein if you've seen that. But Pan's Labyrinth is a marvelous film. We get kind of an Alice in Wonderland kind of thing happening with our young protagonist, a young girl who's barely on the cover down here, and she goes into this maze, this little area near her house, and all these fantastical creatures that she runs into, and she's got to get in and out of this world that uh, she keeps going back to. And then on the other hand, we get I think World War II era We get a guy who's her stepdad or stepdad. I think it's a stepdad. He's kind of a tyrant. He's a general in the army, and he's a cruel dude. And so, is he a bigger monster than the ones that he's running into down there? And I highly recommend that. This is one of the movies I highly recommend that you watch this movie. If you're not into foreign films, but you kind of want to see more, this is one where I would say, hey, take a look here, and that's a good starting point. It's nothing too outlandish as far as it's not going to destroy your soul like Old Boy or some of those other movies, and it's not going to be so cheesy. It's not going to be really really cheesy like other movie, like some of the martial arts movies that I love, but some of them admittedly are a little bit cheesy, and it's not that right. So this is a real movie. It is a fantasy, so if you like fantasy, that's up your alley. That's my number four. My number three is a movie, again, another one that I got buried in a box somewhere. I didn't want to get out, but it is a great, great movie. And that is Little Miss Sunshine, Abigail Breslin, another young. And wow, I just realized that we got three movies in a row where the protagonist was a teenage or preteen girl. Uh, Interesting. But anyway, I guess this was the year of the teenage girl. But anyway, well, the preteen in this case, Little Miss Sunshine, her character is all into beauty pageants and she wants to win one. However, she's constantly being told that she's too chubby for beauty pageants, and her family is a mess. And we get Steve Carell as her uncle, who's just out of a psych ward, basically. Um, Greg Kinnear's her dad. He's one of those self-help gurus, except it's not going that well, so they're running out of money. Tony Collette is mom, and she's trying to hold everything together, but it's not always working. Paul Dano, one of his first performances that I've ever seen, might be the first one that I've seen. uh, he's trying to become a pilot. He wants to be an Air Force pilot, and he's refusing to speak until he does become an Air Force. It's odd. Uh, Alan Arkin won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for this role. He's the granddad, and he's a whole mess too. And they're going on. They all pile in this van that you can see on the cover to kind of support. They want to support Abigail Breslin's character. They want to support her because she wants to win the beauty pageants, but they got to travel to do it. They got to drive to another city to do that. And this van is as much of a mess as they are. Barely wants to start. Um, and this is pretty easily the most heartwarming movie of the year that I saw. And I've returned to it many times, and I'll return to it many more probably. Anytime I'm in a bad mood, that's a movie that I watch. Next one, my number two is not a feel good movie in the least. It is the opposite of a feel good. I wouldn't say the opposite of a feel good movie, but it's definitely not one. And that is Martin Scorsese's The Departed. This is the movie that got him his Oscar finally. Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon. They're both undercover cops. We're trying to figure out which one is dirty, which one is not. Um, Jack Nicholson, I almost said Robert De Niro, but Jack Nicholson, he's the gangster that everybody's kind of after. And then we got Alec Baldwin's in the movie. Mark Wahlberg is here. He gives his best performance ever. Vera Farmiga is great in this movie as well. And then the last 30 minutes is just like basically what happened. Maybe even less than that. Maybe the last 20 minutes, because the whole time you're guessing, right? The whole time you're just guessing, what's happening, and um, then some things do start happening and you spend the last 10, 20 minutes going, what? And it's really do that. And I'm not exaggerating. You really do that. And that's one of the things that gets it up here. Uh, if you want to prep yourself, but you might possibly spoil The Departed, you can watch Infernal Affairs, which is uh, the movie that The Departed is actually a remake of. And that movie is basically a trilogy. It's actually a trilogy, and The Departed kind of takes elements mostly from the first movie, but it does weave in some other things. And uh, Scorsese gives us that. And what makes this movie better than that is the character development is handled masterfully here, and that's why it gets my number two, but not my number one. My number one has been my number one movie of 2006 since I saw it in 2006. And I didn't get to a theater to see it. Didn't even know it existed actually until it came out for home video. And this is one of those movies where I was working at Blockbuster and got to take it home and watched it. And was like and immediately blown away. And that is Children of Men, another Clive Owen movie in the top 10 for 2006. And in this case, no one in America has been pregnant or given birth in 20 years. And there is a woman who turns up pregnant all of a sudden, and Clive Owen is tasked with getting her to the safe zone. I forget what the place that he's trying to take her to is called, but along the way, people are trying to get her, kill him, and do nefarious things to maybe basically maintain the status quo is one of those things, right? And great metaphoric movie. And if there are times when you may have heard me say or talk about white savior movies. There are times in the future when I'm going to talk about white savior movies. And this is a white savior movie, but it is an excellent one. Just because a movie is a white savior one doesn't mean it's automatically bad. It just so happens that most of them are. But this one is actually really, really good. My number one movie of 2006. Stay tuned. Uh, there will be some honorable mentions that pop up here right after I say thank you for hanging out with me. And if you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.